I want to tell you a quick story because this is a really good one that Melanie Balke shared from Email Marketers. You guys might know her. She was telling me that she had ordered a box of wine or something like that, and she went with a subscription program just because it was cheaper and she was going to cancel, something like that. But then they sent her a note in the first box because they probably have an issue with people doing that. And it said, look out for a surprise in your next order. And then she was like, oh, I wonder what the surprise is, and then kept her subscription because she wanted that second package. So I think people don't realize that they have to dig into the data of their subscription, like where are people falling off? Why are they falling off? And then we're just looking at retention in general. So first-time buyers that are not coming back, we're actually calling them and finding out why didn't you buy again, giving that feedback to the founder. There are a number of things we can uncover just from talking to the first-time buyers and adjust from there.
Cool. Hey everyone, thank you for joining. Carly, thank you for being here. It's good to see you again.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited. I haven't done this in a while.
Dun, dun, dun. Daniel, I've not invited you onto any of these, so you're here today, so don't embarrass me.
Okay. I've been slighted. I feel it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I've got nothing to say. Well, I'll call you later. We'll discuss it. Carly, I've like 1,000 questions for you. I do want to start, first of all, with your background, because everybody should know who you are, but I assume a few people don't. And then DB, you're allowed to have a little bit of background too. But Carl, introduce yourself, however you want to take that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I like to tell this part of my story that most people don't know, which is that I started in e-commerce when I was 19. So my entire adult life, I've been in e-com, and I actually started on the logistics side. So I don't remember if I told you that before, but yeah, so I ran a logistics company delivering small parcel for Amazon and Google as a third party, though, through OnTrack in LA and Orange County. So meant that I was in Compton 7 days a week, sorting packages with my drivers. Often some of them wouldn't show up, so I would be off delivering packages all evening. Got to learn that side of the world first, which is a side I do not wish to return to. And got the hard stuff out of the way. Moved into actually working for an agency for a couple of years, and that's what really helped me launch my career, because they got pretty deep into the operational side of things in terms of coaching. So we had the EOS implementer coming in. We had coaches, the Gazelles coaches from Scaling Up, if you're familiar, teaching the Rockefeller habits. So we had both of those guys in, and I learned a ton about operations. And that's actually what I'm really more inclined towards, which a lot of people don't know because I'm known as a marketer, but I actually prefer ops. So did a little bit of that. And then started my agency and ran that for 5 years before I left it to my team. Of course, I processed myself out with EOS and was the COO at Minikatana for a year, doing a number of different things, not just the COO role. And then I took all last year off, which was beautiful. And now I'm the CMO at No Days Wasted.
I have like 4,000 follow-up questions, but I will give DB one chance. Please introduce yourself and your background. It is actually annoyingly very interesting. And maybe you can give a little bit of like what the problem set is that you were thinking about when you kind of started Arita.
Sure. Yeah. Hey, everybody. I'm DB. I'm the cooler co-founder over Aaron at Arita. And I'm actually a machine learning engineer. I used to be a neuroscientist. I left academia about a decade ago. I then entered tech. My first tech company was a same-day delivery company. It was a friend of mine was the CTO. I showed up and I did a little bit of a math problem for them to solve a routing issue that they had. And they were like, great, you're a first employee. And that was it. And I've been in tech ever since then. I've done a lot of things in e-commerce and DTC. So pricing, demand planning, inventory, all that kind of stuff from a data perspective. I've built CDPs back when high touch and those things didn't exist. And then one of the consistent issues that we would run into was just like how much people were kind of wasting their marketing spend. And so Zach, our third co-founder, and I started working on that. Actually, in direct mail is where we first tried it out. We're just like, hey, let's use a little bit of data science here because direct mail is so expensive. And we ended up saving the brand hundreds of thousands of dollars on their next catalog campaign and they also made more revenue. And so that was kind of like the seed of this idea of like, maybe we can use data science and machine learning to make smart decisions around marketing. And because direct mail is such a old school world, we decided, like, why don't we try this first in email? We didn't know a ton about email. They were just like all marketing channels to us, but we're like, Klaviyo has a nice API. We can like connect it really quickly. It'll be much faster to go. And yeah, that's kind of where we got started a little bit over a year and a half ago. And it's just been very fast moving water since then.
I love it. I mean, the smartest co-founder is our other one. So he's just not here though. He's busy building. So thank you, Zach.
Yeah, he actually is. Yeah.
Carly, I love that we all have very similar backgrounds, right? I know you know this, but like I ran a brand and then I co-founded a company called Passport that does international shipping for a bunch of D2C brands. And then I was at Loop Returns and I'm like an investor and advisor in a bunch of logistics companies. And this is my first like proper foray into marketing tech and anything to do with it. And so, yeah, I'm also excited to be, I know a lot of logistics, but I'm just like, I can't go to the Manifest conference. Like I've like been a decade there. I need the break. And the first thing, when DB and Zach, I was very joyful and they brought me on as a co-founder. The first thing I said was I need to read your book. So we actually have talked about you many, many times in the past. I think you know that, but I literally just got the second edition and it is very thick and it is awesome. Before we get into the book, can you share a little bit of the story of the agency? Because you scaled it and you mentioned like EOS and you processed yourself out of it. And then I'd love for you to share a little bit about your transition back into being the operator. Take that however you want. I'll ask some follow-up, but please.
So whenever we started out, my business partner and I, it was just he and I think we maybe had an assistant at that time. He had been freelancing doing email marketing for about a year and a half. I actually didn't have much experience in email marketing, a little bit B2B. But I was meant to be the operator. I was never meant to be an email marketer. I was not the guru. Not that I even am now, but you have a couple of books. So I found pretty quickly that it was just something that I naturally caught on to. And my business partner really apparently didn't love it. He liked the sales side of things. So just naturally, I fell into that piece. He took on just the sales and then I had everything else. I still had ops. I had project management. I was doing the strategy, essentially everything except for sales. So I was, I worked from like 7 a.m. to, I don't know, 1 a.m. every day of my life for years. And it actually wasn't even my initial learning of EOS that helped me. I got an executive coach that I worked with for 2 years. And that was what really made the change. And the reason that I got him was because I was like 3 months away from having my child. I'm like massively pregnant and I was still working these crazy hours. So I had implemented some of EOS to get us there, but really the double-edged sword issue that came up was COVID hit, and we lost probably, I don't know, 75% of our clients in like a month's time. Everybody was scared. And then a month later, they all come back, and then we also quadrupled in size over that summer. And that was the summer right before I had my son. So we were doing well, but I just was not prepared to quadruple. So we had 55 team members. We had 110 clients. I was running ragged. And then so, yes, we hired that executive coach. He helped me get even deeper into EOS and some of the other operational tactics that then allowed me to get out of the business. One of the more important parts of scaling, though, I think even that wouldn't have happened even with the EOS tactics is like we had a really dedicated team. So our team was all over the world. I was the only American and everyone came in pretty much knowing nothing. Like we had no money to start out. My business partner and I were not by any means wealthy when we got going. So we trained everybody from scratch and everybody was really grateful to be building this career with us and constantly getting raises and seeing their career kind of unfold very quickly for them. But anyway, yeah, so that's a little bit about scaling. I spent over $100,000 on coaching, which was most certainly worth it. But it was a big investment.
Thank you for sharing. And like +1 on finding the right coach. It's kind of like a therapist or like, I mean, if we want to go into logistics, like a 3PL, there's no one right coach for everybody. There's no one right 3PL, right? And so, but when you find that person, my God, like so impactful to help you strategize, get out of your own head, all that stuff. So thank you for sharing. Um, the question I have for you right now, and then I do want to go much more into the book and retention and everything, is like, you are back in an operating seat. How does it feel? And you're doing it not from the agency side, but from the brand side. And like, obviously there's the email side and retention side, but also like running the business. How is that transition back then?
So, as I mentioned, I took a year off and I started working literally 1 year from our sale date. So, that was lovely, and I had always, been pretty excited to get back. The entire time I had to fight not working. It was very intentional to take that
Hmm.
time off. So, I was pretty excited to get going, and I'm actually technically a fractional CMO, but as of now, I'm working full time because that's just how I operate.
You can call it fractional, but if you're at a brand like that and you're with the passion you have, I like, even if you're not working every hour, you're thinking about it. So
Right, exactly. So that's actually, I think, the difference, and the main thing that I want to touch on is that it's not my business, but it feels like it is.
Mm.
And I'm not just in a marketing seat. I'm also helping on the ops side, on the finance side. Like I am in everything. I'm hiring right now. It's um I guess it's one of those things that you just can't turn off after you've been in that position. It's like you have to think about everything else. So I really feel like I'm back to owning a business, but I guess with less risk.
I love it. All right. I want to go into how you and DB might approach a brand differently. Just to be very clear for the 99.999% of you who don't know what a REIT is, we're not an agency. We're not Klaviyo. We're not a brand. We are data science ML engineers. Like we will help a brand get the most out of their list, right? So we look at everything through a deep data understanding of who's engaged, who's unengaged. Carly, you know everything from like the data side to the content side to the strategy side. So just for context there, um, I want to start with you. If you had 2 hours, I bring you a good brand today. I go, Carly, you've got 2 hours. You can meet with anybody on the team. You can talk to an agency who they worked with 3 years ago. You can go into their Klaviyo and see the data or whatever their ESP is. You can talk to 5 customers. How would you go in to assess how they're doing on an email or on a retention side if you want to expand it beyond just email? And then DB, obviously, like chime in with questions or if there's anything on a
Sure.
data perspective. Yeah, Carly, like where would you prioritize your time at the start?
So depending on the type of business, if it is one that already retains customers well, maybe they have a subscription program, versus one that is typically like a one-time, maybe like very high value purchase. Um, if it's the latter, if we're talking about like I don't know, a $1,000 chair, and I'm looking at the pop-up first. So is that optimized? Then I'm looking at
Hmm.
the cohort analysis. So if they've been testing it, if they've changed it, like where is that working best? And then honestly, it's the welcome flow. And because it's like it's probably a one-time purchase, everything after that doesn't really matter as much. The abandoned cart, sure. But the welcome flow, I would be looking at building out like months and months of emails in that flow, because then you don't even have to worry about sending campaigns really if you're trying to get the most out of your resources, and you actually get to choose the order in which people are receiving your emails and where you can plant like a flash sale, where if we're looking at the data science. I used to use Trestle whenever
Hmm.
I would go in and look at brands and see, okay, what should the percentage of people who are buying in the first day look like? And we're testing probably within that first 3 days of someone coming on for a non-high value product, but the first 30 days. So, I'm looking at all of those emails and then building out further. I mean, it's pretty simple on the one-time purchase type of product.
Yeah, I mean, I love this. I agree so strongly with everything that you just said, and some of our customers are this way. And I think it's surprising, and it's one thing that a lot of marketers can probably hop in right now and take a look, which is like, what is a probability or what percentage of people are going to be buying within a certain amount of time after
Mhm.
the welcome flow starts? Because to your point, it's just like those first few emails are so critical in shaping that journey. And then you can also get a good sense of like, how much do you need to prod them or annoy them later? If 99% of people buy stuff within the first week, then it's just like, then you can have a real discussion about what does it mean to send content after that window? How many people buy within an hour, buy within a day, buy within 3 days? All that kind of stuff is so critical, to your point, for like those first few touch points to be as impactful as possible.
Yeah.
It's wonderful. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And on the other side of it, so we're talking about with perhaps a product that is CPG and has a subscription program. That one I'm digging a lot deeper. So if we're looking at actually, I just saw this problem recently where there were some surprise and delight campaigns set up, and
Mm.
they were sending products to a country, or they were promising products in a country that they didn't actually have that product in. And so people were getting these emails saying like, oh, surprise, here's the product that's coming, and then it won't deliver.
Yeah.
And so, then I actually found it by just doing a quick CS audit. And
Oh,
I
right.
didn't, yeah, so I found it that way, not via looking through the subscription platform messages that were going out. But I think people don't realize that they have to dig into the data of their subscription. Like,
Totally.
where are people falling off? Why are they falling off? Do they have too much product? Do we need to tell them? Actually, I want to tell you a quick story, because this is a really good one that Melanie Balke shared from Email Marketers. You guys might know her.
She's awesome. They're a great partner.
Yeah, she's great. And she was telling me that she had ordered a box of wine or something like that. And she went with a subscription program just because it was cheaper and she was going to cancel, something like that. But then they sent her a note in the first box, because they probably have an issue with people doing that. And it said, look out for a surprise in your next order. And then she was like, oh, I wonder what the surprise is. And then kept her subscription because she wanted that second package. So I think there's a lot to do there. And because your subscription customers are the most important, I go there. And then we're just looking at retention in general. So first time buyers that are not coming back, we're actually calling them and finding out why didn't you buy again, giving that feedback to the founder. There are a number of things that we can uncover just from talking to the first time buyers, and adjust from there.
What's so interesting about everything you're saying, and it actually reminds me a lot of, like, I'm sure you've read a lot of Kevin Hillstrom stuff, which is like that so much about like the operations and the merchandising and stuff like that is actually so critical in understanding, and that a lot of marketers take the hit because like they're being forced to send all these emails. But to your point, it's just like actually get on the phone to understand with the customer why they didn't buy that second time, or why did they cancel after that first box. Like it's not a marketer is not going to solve that by themselves. It's like looking at like the performance of individual campaigns or flows. You have to think about what are the incentive structures in order to do that. And that's something that we oftentimes suggest back this before Arita days when I was doing more consulting, which is like to be very thoughtful about the sort of discounts that you're getting, especially up front. And especially if thinking about what type of behavior that's going to cultivate. In one story that reminds us very similar is that Zach and I used to consult for a brand that sells mainly to college kids. And college kids they're super smart about the internet. So they were crazy about getting first-time discounts. And so the brand thought their customer base was huge. And it actually was a fraction of the size, because these college kids were like, I'm never going to pay full price for anything. I'm a cheap college kid. I know how to make alias email addresses. I know how to like do whatever. I'm going to spend all my time doing that. And so therefore, like, yeah, so everything was there. All the LTV, so like all the modeling that the brand had done was like completely off the rocker. And then at the same time, we had a different client where their customer base was like 50 errands, 50-year-old men, 60-year-old men. And like in that case, they're not taking the time to make alias email addresses. They're going to go golfing with their buddies. They're going to pay full price. And so like they don't have the problem at all. And so it's really interesting understanding your customer base and then shaping, especially the merchandising and the incentives and stuff like that, to make sure that you like get that right balance for when you grow.
Do we want to turn to the fact that DB is 1 year younger than me and hasn't ever found a place that cuts his hair, or is this not okay? Some of us work hard and we get gray. Okay, man. Carly, this is gonna sound so dumb, but I think if I take nothing else from this call and like your book, everybody's so fixated on the metrics and everybody's so fixated on the like content and everything. Your insight about have you looked at customer service tickets? Do you actually understand? is like, I mean, it's so obvious and it is so great. So thank you for saying like, it is not just like, yeah, anyway, I love it.
Yeah, I mean, so the agency gave me a great opportunity to see the inside of a lot of businesses. We worked with over 500 brands, and I was personally at some point in at least half of those. So, I mean, there's not a lot that we can do if you get them to buy the product the first time because you're such a great, you know, you have great creatives or whatever it is, but then the product isn't good, or there's some like critical flaw in the process that is making them not come back. Like you said, there's not a lot we can do.
Yeah, I think just to jump in, when we think about this from a data perspective, there's like a few things that we look at, and one of them is just like, how does their revenue scale with their list, right? Like, are they, and how many people are they emailing, especially if they have these active engagement segments, and is that growing as their list grows? And what's really surprising, a lot of brands, it's pretty flat. They'll double their list size, and they're not like making twice as much money through email. They're maybe making 20% more, and their active campaign list that they're setting to isn't twice as big. It's 10% larger. And so then that's usually when brands kind of reach out. I'm sure they reach out to you in this case. They're like, my ROI on Klaviyo or Irritable was like huge. And now I'm much bigger and somehow it's not that high. And a lot of times it's like these kind of more fundamental merchandising or product issues that kind of be like, well, yeah, it's because people aren't coming back, or like whatever you're doing is like turning them off or something like that. And so that's actually why, even though you think this should be kind of coin operated, it's not turning into as profitable as the opportunity as it could be.
I have a question for you guys because I have a problem right now that I'm trying to solve. So I'm really deep with No Days Wasted, obviously, and they are omni-channel with retail being this year will be the largest portion of our business. But we also have a great presence on Amazon, uh, TikTok Shop. You know, we've got a lot going on, and now more than ever, I feel like the metrics that I'm looking at do not show me the reality of our situation.
Yeah.
So, you know, if we have buyers that solely buy in like their local Walmart, but they get our emails and it's a reminder that like, oh, when I go to Walmart later today, I'm going to buy it. Like I can't actually see that I had that impact on them. We have great open rates, engagement I'm working on, but revenue is not what I would expect to see in email, although I know it's there. So it's one of those things that I wish I had more visibility into.
Yeah, it's such an interesting and super challenge, especially the omni-channel piece and how you don't necessarily know where everything's going impacted. And so the major thing that we always like stress with our customers is that like our goal is to help drive top line revenue, full stop. Not what's reported in Klaviyo, not reported in like whatever tools. It's to
Yeah.
join. It's to grow top line revenue, and sometimes that actually might mean that what you see in any given platform might actually drop a little bit, but that's because this probably was attributing too much revenue, right, to it. And the reverse is also true. And so we always emphasize, as you can imagine, lots of testing. To me, that's like the real way to get that sort of answer, because to that point, if it's like, if you're not sending, if you're changing your segmentation strategies, even though you might not be able to link like that click or whatever to that thing, you should see changes in overall revenue. And so like it's a kind of a tautology that I talk about with our ML team of like, how do we make models to predict purchase behavior on email? It's like my definition of an email attributed order is, if you mess with email, it goes down. Or if you do something better with email, it goes up. That's the actual proper definition of an email attributed revenue. And so setting up a testing strategy to see if you can figure out what those levers are, to me is the best way forward for that.
Carly, do all of your orders flow through in the same place, or is there a way for you to track store location tied to like, hey, it's within X number of miles of somebody who received an email? I can tell you where I'm going with this.
I mean, that would be amazing, but I do not have that visibility.
It's hard, right? And so maybe it's not like the wholesale side of the business, but the other parts, maybe. I'll give an example of one of our customers. So one of our products, we call it an audiences product. We like try to tell you who are the people who are jumping up and down and want to hear from you over email. Generically, and I know you know this, but like any segment you use is going to have some gaps in it. you use a very tight 45-day engaged window. Well, guess what? If Carly, you clicked 44 days ago and have never purchased, and DB clicked 46 days ago and has bought 30 times, he's out of that segment, you're in. There's something different there. And so the idea of that product for us is, how do we go find what we call like the cracks in the segmentation, right? You should still do the 45-day engage. That's like the best you can do. And like use data science, like go level deeper. When we've given this to a bunch of our brands, there's one in particular where we have a case study, so I might share it. Psycho Bunny. Psycho Bunny is an awesome monster Shopify brand. They're Klaviyo. They have a huge retail presence, 150 stores. I'm wrong, but like they're one of like the faster growing kind of retailers. We went into the data and like we did matchbacks and we understood what was going on and we could see all the data. And it's easier because it's Shopify POS. So we saw all the data. Obviously, it's complex if you can't see if they're using a different system. It's like, cool. How do you go see it? And we actually saw a big increase in retail sales, in-store sales from people who we sent an email to, or who they sent the email, obviously, but we gave them the list. But we didn't report on it to them. Their team is so good. In Savannah, there was like, we actually see more sales from in-store. And we're like, we do too, but like we didn't think you would believe us, and our numbers are already good enough on email. And so like we didn't do it. The comment I would say is like, think about all this as incrementality, as I know you do, right? So like talking not to you, but talking to everybody else. And the more you can get and like figure out the match back and just see like, cool, we sent to a bunch of people in the zip code and we saw retail sales go up when we sent, not. That is actually like, it doesn't have to be correct to be directionally right and to give you a hunch of like, is it working or not? But I would just always look at it from an incrementality perspective. Like we always talk about there are like all these amazing reporting tools, like there's MMM, it doesn't matter. They're telling you maybe where to go next. What you actually get to do is like, you get to, like, you're the engine that's driving like what the report is going to be.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, that's the challenge. I mean, the good thing is you guys have so many channels, obviously, but
Yeah. And that what you said, looking at top line is kind of what I've come to as well. It's like so difficult to manage, knowing where they're coming from, and we're doing our best, but as long as top line's growing and bottom line is following, that's great.
Yeah, I think it's we've had some great conversations with some of our brands, and like one made the joke like, oh, if every single tool said they made as much ROI for me, I'd be as rich as Bill Gates or something like that, right? And it's funny and it's like totally true, but the problem, like the dark side of that problem, besides from reporting angle, means that if something goes wrong, you don't know where to point. If everything is claiming 80% of your revenue and then all of a sudden it's down 20%, you're like, oh, well, it's SMS or it's email or it's TikTok. Like they're all claiming all this stuff. And so that's kind of why, like, our strategy with working with brands is like always to set up lots of like little tests in there so you can get at least some sort of directional sense of like how much is that impact. And so maybe it might not be 100% precise on like the dollar value that is story, but at least you can kind of figure out what are the levers. Like, I think if I pull this lever in this direction or that direction, that is going to make a big impact, because that is what matters when all of a sudden things aren't going as fast as you hope. You have a good sense of like, where do you need to like kind of focus more of your energy?
Do you have to do like a full holdout test to figure that out?
Yeah, I mean, so we do that sort of stuff. So like we right off the bat always, so we set aside 10% of the list for any of our brands that we don't touch. And that's not for them to not receive email or anything like that. It's just for us to understand what they're doing, to then figure out what can our contribution be, right?
Nice.
And when we do that, we do tell them like it would be a good idea to genuinely see what is like your organic purchasing rate. And it doesn't have to be 10%. It can be something much smaller than that. But to really, 1 out of every 100 profiles, just like don't do anything. And you could like every quarter shake it up, or every half a year. So you don't have to do it forever, but just kind of get that sense of like what would happen if you didn't do any of those sorts of things. And therefore you can have a better idea of like, okay, now let's layer on emails, let's layer on all this kind of stuff on top of that.
All about like comparing business as usual strategy to anything else you're doing. And so like that'll give you the sense of incrementality, and you'll be wrong, but you'll be much better than using an attribution tool. You know what I mean? It's like you're never going to get it exactly right. Like we do statistical testing, which means, do I really know that Carly wouldn't have bought even though she was in the holdup? No. But statistically, yeah, she like this percentage of people would not have purchased. Therefore, this was not performant. Yeah. I love it. Thanks for servicing that. I want to switch gears a little bit to your book because I heard you're an author and I would like a signed copy. The first question is, why a book?
So I wrote the first book, I guess 2 years ago now. And we actually didn't do any marketing at the agency. Our number one source was cold email, lots from Upwork, referrals, but we didn't do any marketing ourselves. And so I was like, okay, I'm gonna write a book. And honestly, that was the reason for writing the book. And then we ended up selling. So we never actually used the book for lead gen. But the book, surprisingly, this is before I knew anybody in the space aside from clients, did exceptionally well. And over the next couple of years, I went to probably 20 different e-commerce events and, got to speak at a few of them and went on podcasts and all of this stuff. And I met more and more and more people. And as I started getting in, like my whole world became e-commerce, and mostly with like the founders of rather large brands, and like hearing their thoughts and hearing how they think about it and hearing how other agencies do it. Um, I came out of my silo, actually first working with Mini Katana as well. So actually being
Hmm.
brand side and experiencing it. All of these different experiences showed me that my first book was then embarrassing to me. I mean, it's still good. It's a great resource, and people loved it, but I learned so much more that I didn't want that to be the legacy that I left as, I
Mm.
sold the agency and kept going. So I realized that we all have such unique experiences, whether it was like Andrew from Hexclad talking about cohort analysis, or it was Melanie Balky talking about customer experience and subscriptions. I had a number of different agency owners speaking about things. I had a ton of brands, a couple software companies, and I really wanted to give the best resource that I could on email marketing for e-commerce, and I genuinely feel that it is. And I honestly, it became a legacy thing towards the end there. It was really no other reason to write the second book. It's not lead gen for anything. I don't have a course. I don't have an agency. There's nothing. So, yeah, it was just to give back to this amazing community.
The thing I like, I've not read it yet cover to cover, but I've read a bunch of the sections. I did get it like 3 days ago, so I apologize, but this has been the priority for me. I really love the insights, like Melamu's for sure. What are there any one or two things that really stood out to you from all these interviews and all these other sections that you're like, oh, even if you kind of had a hunch, you're like, okay, I get it now, or yeah, what's something new that you learned from kind of going through this process?
I learned so many new things, but I would say that some stuff around drops was particularly insightful.
Hmm.
So, for example, Montana Knife Company, they drop a new product every week and sometimes twice a week, and they have this kind of clockwork style to it. But it showed me that the drops, I mean, we were talking about email marketing, but it gave insight into the business as a whole and how they are so successful. So he talks a little bit about, they keep their main sellers in stock, but they drop something new every week because these people are collectors. So
Mhm.
the more that they do that, so on and so forth. I won't spend too much time on that one. But then we also have like a Francis from 100 Thieves, and he talks about how it's either 100 Thieves or High Ground. When they launch a new product, that is their best source of list growth, because
Hmm.
they have a post-purchase built specifically for that product, where they use like the sneakerhead mentality of like, got them. So they give them even like these really cool images that they can share on their socials. That's like, I got this cool new like Pokemon keyboard. And then so they share it with their audience, and then a bunch of people sign up because maybe if they're not even getting, that keyboard, there's some other something else that's drawing them in. So they have a really cool post-purchase flow that they've built there. Ryan McKinsey gave me some great insights around how he does some crazy stuff in abandoned cart, and I had to check. I checked with the compliance at Postscript. I was like, "Is this legal?" And it is, as long as you give the proper um, disclosures. But Ryan does things like sending a voicemail, or he has like a voicemail drop, or he has some sort of like AI calling and like talking through why they didn't buy the product. That was really interesting. There are some really cool insights from lots of people, lots of things that I've never done, but that could be applicable across lots of different businesses.
That is super cool. Um, DB, any questions or follow-ups? If not, I'm going to shift a little bit more.
No, go for it.
Okay. I
I'm
don't know if you guys
processing
have
that.
heard about
Processing
this.
what some of my voicemails might be.
Are you going to start
on my
sending
phone
me
right
voice
now.
memos now?
Yeah, totally.
I'm just going to reply all stop.
It'll be business advice and also to sell some stuff on the side as well.
Oh God, why aren't you picking up? Okay. You guys might have heard that AI is a big deal. So Carly, I want to start with you. And this could also dovetail if you wrote a third edition of the book in 2 years from now, right? How is AI updating? How is it understood? That's not a word, but I think you understood. Or like overblown as far as like how it's going to impact retention marketing. What's happening now, but what do you think is actually going to happen in like 6 or 12 months? Like take this wherever you want. I want to spend some time on this topic. Yeah.
I feel like DB is going to have better insight for you here. But my experience with AI has, I use it for writing our emails really quickly. I do not sit down and handwrite our emails. I give a great prompt to ChatGPT and then refine it a little bit at the end. So in that regard, like we don't even have a copywriter on the team, even for our landing pages, for lots of things. I use ChatGPT and then refine at the end, and it makes it really fast. And
are you uploading a bunch of your old content and be like, hey, here's our brand voice, etc. to start, or is it like kind of fresh each time?
No, so I use the same I don't know what you call it, like project in ChatGPT, where I'm just constantly using the same thing, so it knows what I like from the past. But I will even feed in like, hey, I really like this email, or I want to try out this framework, or like, imagine you are this marketer, how would you sell this product? Like I'll do some things like that to even get new ideas. I don't consider myself a copywriter, but ChatGPT makes me one. So I use that pretty heavily. And for design, I can't say that I've necessarily found too much of a hack there. There are platforms like, I think Backstroke is one of them, where they can customize based on like the weather or the state that they're in and things like that, and they can change out parts in the email, and that's pretty cool. It's a little bit more or a little bit less personalized though. And that's pretty much all I got for you. I really am not that deep into AI and email marketing.
Well, DP, let me create space for you. If there's anything you've been seeing, or I don't know.
I mean, I think it's super interesting, especially what Carly said is like, because I actually align a lot, which is like, there's a lot of ways in which what's coming out should really help accelerate basically the creative process, but not replace the creative process. And I think like, you gave all those examples of like these super interesting voicemail, abandoned checkout. It's like, those are awesome ideas developed by very creative, interesting people. And ML can probably help optimize that sort of thing once you have that idea in place, give you those sort of set of things, so then you can refine further. And like, that's really where it is. And so I think that's like, to me, that's where it is. I as someone who actually like deeply understands how LMs, all this kind of stuff work, like the idea that like you'll have that thing and you won't have any marketers because it will just be firing things automatically is like not going to happen anytime soon. And it shouldn't happen, because you really want your voice to stand out. And then I think the other aspect that I think about too is like, just there's so much data that's being generated, and with the amount of volume of data that's being generated, it's like basically impossible now to like leverage all of the information to make a lot of like, especially very fast decisions. And so when you think, that's why where Rita started is like, it's like, we take customer segmentation as one example. That's just an example where like ML model can look at customer service tickets, and it can look at like if something took a long time to ship and all these sorts of things, to then say like, maybe Aaron doesn't want to hear from you because he's actually really mad at you right now because his package came like 2 months late. Right.
Yeah.
And that is something that right now requires Carly, in your examples, like I had to go in there, I knew to kind of look and ask for these questions. Whereas like that, all that information is definitely there, right? Or a lot of that information can be there, and you can basically pose a lot of ML problems to kind of look at that sort of thing and take that into account. So when we make our models, we're like very open-ended, which is like, what events are there in Klaviyo? Oh, there's a on-site quiz. Cool. We'll look at that. oh, there's, clicks. Cool. We'll look at that. Or it's like whatever these things are, we'll just take a look at all of them, because you don't necessarily know individually for each individual brand what's actually the most informative to predict purchasing or clicks and stuff like that. And that's also where I think a lot of the ML value can. I'm very biased because that's literally what we do, and where I think like the most value can be, which is just like take advantage of all the information that even very small brands are generating now.
Carly, I think one of the frameworks that I take is like AI in and of itself means nothing. It's like a tool, right? But it's like, to what end? What are the problems you're solving? So yeah, like we see a lot. I had a call yesterday with a company called Yuzu Labs, which helps with like videos, but you can do a lot with it, and it's cool because you can do avatar or you can do yourself with like backgrounds. Maybe I can share one thing that DB and I talk about. I'd love actually your feedback on this, if that's okay. And keep in mind, like we have some awesome investors. We're obviously like, it is very expensive to do the work we're doing. So we're fundraising, we're growing. And as we kind of think about the world that we're playing in, the framework that we think a lot about is that like all these tools are going to get better and better and better. And so there will be more personalization through more channels. And it won't just be from a brand, but it'll be from every company in the world. The CEO of UPS in 6 months, in 18 months, is going to send me a personalized voice memo. Hey, Aaron, sorry your package is delayed. This is whoever. This is Kendra from UPS, right? And it's going to get better. And there's going to be more channels, like TikTok Shops exists, Shop Pay or Shop, the Shop app exists, etc. What's coming next? I don't know. LinkedIn will have a shopping place, right? Do you know what I mean? Like it's going to keep going. And so the framework that we always pay attention to is like, in that world, it's not just brands, it's every company, and it's more personalized. The question is, what do I want as a consumer? It's not like, what does Carly, I'll put it the other way. What does Aaron, the big bad marketer, want? Like, oh, I really want to send Carly a message and we've got this cool new drop and we're going to do it. But it's much more like trying to create it as a pull from the consumer. Like, what does Carly want? What does she want to hear? And when? And through what channel? And the way that we think about the world is like, you can't do any of that without actually understanding incrementality. It's like, do not send Carly a postcard that costs 60 cents. If you could send her a text that costs 2 cents. Don't send a text if you could send an email that costs a tenth of a penny. And don't send the email if she would buy or engage or click or whatever, right? Because it doesn't have to be about a buy. If she would take action independent of it. Because in that world, you're still taking risk by sending the email that she doesn't click, which hurts you with Gmail, yada, yada, yada. Anyway, I'm curious if like that framing makes sense. We're just assuming everybody else will solve all the like content and the creative stuff. So it is hard. But.
Yeah, that makes sense. And we think of it in the same way. So for example, the direct mail, like our campaigns are to unreachable profiles, or people who've unsubscribed. Like it's expensive and we don't want to just send it to everybody. Although we are doing a test right now with our welcome flow. I think we have like half not getting a postcard and half getting like a handwritten postcard so we can see the lift.
Love it.
Running some tests like that. But yeah, I think of it in the same way. I really actually try to send as few SMS as possible.
I love it. It's very funny. Since you and I mean, it's been a couple of months since we chatted. We actually launched a direct mail product. We partner with Postpilot, but it's the exact same conceit, which is like, don't just get a 10x ROI, right? Which is cool, or ROAS. Go figure out incrementality. Like, would that person have, right? Which is obviously what you're doing with the holdout. And then figure out who are the profitable segments, because like this is a profitable channel for most companies. If you are tight on your segmentation, you really understand where there's incrementality there and like where it's going to drive contribution margin. But the whole, somebody's unsubscribed and they're visiting my site, it is an incredible channel to go message them, because you can't obviously send the email.
I just had a great idea. I'm thinking something that I'm working on right now is we need a little bit more education on our product pages. But because we're adding a question to our pop-up of which product they're actually looking at, if we pass that first few dates where we know that 90% of our buyers purchase here, then we can send a postcard after that, like to half of them, and see if that educational postcard actually makes a difference. So
totally.
That's a good one. That's thanks, guys.
No, that's exactly the right thing to test. It's awesome.
Yeah, we're just going to bill you for our services. Don't worry about it. Carly, I do want to bring it back to something you said a long time ago, at the beginning of this conversation about flows versus campaigns. The way that we think about this is like almost every brand every good brand understands what to happen in those first 30 days. And now what you're doing is you're taking a step further and be like, cool, I know that this is the window to go get somebody. If they're going to buy it, happens here, whatever. Like, I mean, you have your own specific insights. The hard thing is always like the midterm and the long term. And direct mail and other channel and SMS and retargeting and everything is very interesting from an addressability perspective for that group. Because it's like, yeah, sending that 46 email is not going to get her to engage. But can you go figure out the people who have bought and engaged, who this is a great way to like really play with the incrementality? Because like it is very scary for a brand if you say you send 100,000 emails a week, right? Or a million emails a week. We think you should send to 30% fewer. However big or small you are, that is a scary thing. And the framing that is like really important for a brand to look at is because it is scary, is like, does sending that email actually drive any other behavior? Or is it like, can you have the same revenue for less? Because then you don't create the risk of the unsubscribe and you get to message that person later. Or just email isn't the channel to move that person. That doesn't mean they don't want to hear from you, but it's like email is not for them. Postcards are, SMS is something else.
I saw that question that somebody asked and then posted Eli's.
Oh, yeah. Patrick from eBusiness Pros asked. Jump in and then, yeah, please.
Yeah, so I read Eli's newsletter or blog post, whatever that was, and I tend to agree more with him. I actually felt a little bit of anxiety as I started seeing all of the guys on Twitter being like, just keep sending emails. You're not sending enough emails. And I'm going like, wait, but that's not the way that I think about it. Am I wrong? And I was like questioning myself and my own beliefs. But whenever I go to send an email, like I'm not sending to people who are subscribed or on a subscription. I'm not sending to people who've purchased in the last X days. I'm not sending to people who are on track to buy. I'm not giving them 3 emails a week. They're getting maybe 1 a week. And so I'm looking at it more from that perspective. And I'm not the one who's like, yeah, send an email every single day. So I tend to agree more with Eli than, I don't know what he called them, like the Twitter bros or something like that.
Loved it. I was like, are they all bros? But yeah, primarily I'm with you.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting because like we're 100% aligned on that strategy too, which is like really getting at the part where the email is a contributing or causal factor to that part. And so it's like, if you just build a propensity to buy model and then you email everyone at the top, it's like, yeah, that will generate revenue, but it would have generated revenue anyway. So to your point about like, if someone's already well on that journey, then you don't need to push them. What you want to do is you want to get like the boulder started to cause the avalanche that causes someone to buy. Or if it's stopped for some reason and they abandon the cart or whatever, then it makes sense to actually do those things. And I think that people, I think one of the things, and this is like, I don't know if it's a hot take, it's just like one of the things I framework is that like, I think a lot of people think about email and a lot of these first party data channels, and they think about Google, they think about meta ads, they think about this paid social media stuff where those have your attention, you're scrolling those things and then you see an ad. But email and SMS, like that's permission marketing. People are opting in, they're giving you their PII in order for you to engage with them. And it's just like a very different dynamic where and like when I see too many ads when I'm watching TV, I get mad at NBC, not like Crest toothpaste. But if if Crest and GMC and if all of them show up in my inbox, I'm gonna get mad at all those brands. You know what I mean? And so like, if you think about it that way, then when you think about how to think about your email program, any similar sort of program like SMS is similar too. It's kind of like, where do you think like those nudges really help on that journey, and where is it not needed? If someone just added something to cart, you don't need to send them something like 3 seconds later. You think about like looking at the data or however you want to do it, like, oh, it's been long enough. Now we think a nudge is necessary. Just like that your new direct mail ID is exactly that sort of strategy.
The caveat to that would be the brands that have really mastered sending out great content. So like I talk about this one all the time because I think they do it best. Have you guys seen Bird Dog's emails?
Not in a while, but yeah, it's awesome. What a killer brand.
They do such a good job, and it's not marketing. It's like, oh, I can choose to read this funny comic, and I know they send them 3 times a week, and it's brilliant, really.
I think that's so right. It's like, I was talking to another founder friend of mine he's also a CTO, so we're nerding out about stuff, but it's like, there is a difference between like brand marketing and like performance marketing. And so all this ML, all this stuff, like it's going to be about incrementality of emails converting people and stuff like that. And that's more in like the performance marketing realm. There's still the whole thing about like your voice and how funny you are. And do people want to read your content? Some of our customers, like the Perfect Gene, like Avadio is so funny and his team's so great at writing emails. And so like, our models are like, no, these people all want to hear from you. Like they genuinely do because they're so damn funny. And so like that, all that kind of stuff can like still exist as long as you put in, once again, the creative effort, right? That's always what I emphasize is like that whole creative part of the branding and your voice is what really can make you have those sorts of strategies that maybe buck the trends is because of that creativity.
So the way that I'm attempting to do that with No Days Wasted right now, we just started this new series. The way I look at it is you can, if you want to send emails to everyone every week, whether it's once, 2, 3 times, whatever, we have this once a week series that is our ingredients deep dive. And it's not even necessarily an ingredient that is in our products. But you're either entertaining or you're educating. So I tried to look at the entertaining route, and for our product, I just didn't feel like it made sense. So every week, an email comes out from our founder that talks about melatonin, or it talks about B6 and the different versions of it when you actually have to look out for whenever you're purchasing a supplement. And so sometimes the ingredients are in our product, sometimes they're not. But we're really putting him in that seat of being a thought leader. We're on this trend of like make the countries healthier. I mean, we're in Canada, so we're like, make Canada healthy again. I mean, we don't say that,
It's a
but
really good acronym.
this is one of those things we might have to cut out. But anyway, so we're sending that once a week, and in every email I'm putting like, yes, keep sending me these, or no, don't send me these. And so I also get some engagement as well because I need some sort of click, but also if they don't want to receive it, I don't want to send it to them. So
Carly, I love that so much. It's information you can use. Nobody, if we send out a weekly email about Arita, I mean, I would unsubscribe from it. It's like nobody cares what we do. Do you know what I mean? It's like, how does this impact them? And so it's funny you say this because after this call, I will send DB another voice memo where I'm like, you've done all these hard data science things that are relevant for brands. Just talk about all those. And it's not like because of like, it's just, this is really interesting stuff and you can go help a business, go help the business.
yeah.
So I couldn't be more aligned with how you're building that. I love it. We are at time. I want to give you a chance for a last word. The safe thing to do with the last word, and DB, you get no last words. You can say thank you and something, but Carly, the safe thing to do is say, buy my book, rate and review something. But like, I do want you to share where people can get your book because it is awesome. The unsafe thing to do is to do that and then also say, here's my last piece of advice. I will defer to you on how you want to end this call.
Okay, well, right now I only have the book up on Amazon. It'll be on like Walmart.com and those things very soon, and I will also be able to send out bulk orders. But right now, just on Amazon. One piece of advice. Ooh, you know what? I can't think of anything that would top some of the conversations we've already had, so I'm gonna bow out on that piece
Great.
right now.
So understood.
My piece of advice,
Oh, God.
choose a great co-founder. It's a really bad thing if you choose a really, really bad old co-founder. He's only a year older, but he looks a lot older than you. These are the sorts of decisions that you need to really make up front. So that's my advice.
What very wise. I like
Very wise. What a kind guy you are. Carly, this was awesome. I took a bunch of notes. Thank you for diving in. Thank you for spending the time. Everybody, go get Carly's book. It is incredible. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks.